Cyber season is in full swing with our pals Isotope and Native Instruments.
Get huge discounts on everything from Guitar Rig 7,
Complete 14 bundles,
and one of our favorites here at the Cult and Culture Podcast,
Ozone 11 EQ. Go to isotope.com
and nativeinstruments.com
to feast on the audio goodness. Yum.
You can also get additional savings on other softwares by using the code
RUIN10.
DistroKid now also has a motherfucking app. The DistroKid app is available for iOS and Android. You can download it at distrokid.com/app/, or you can get it in the App Store.
Fuck. All right, we're rolling.
Planet B presents
Cult and Culture Podcast.
This is episode 31 of the Cult and Culture Podcast. We don't have seasons here in California.
or hurricanes.
I'm Justin Pearson.
I'm Luke Hinshaw.
He's on mushrooms. We're psyched about this episode here. It has my longtime friend, Jose Palafox. Man.
Great dude.
Yeah. He was in a couple bands with me, Struggle, Swing Kids. I met him when I was 13 or 14 at a PIL concert, and I think the next day I saw him at the swap meet, Colby swap meet, where his uncle owned a stand selling bootleg cassettes and T-shirts, and
Those were the best.
yeah, actually his stand turned into Music Trader, which is
Really?
kind of weird. Yeah, which is now gone.
Wow.
Anyhow, I got my first like kind of job there aside from like paper route stuff, but yeah, I got a job there, and then we became friends. He ended up switching to Mission Bay High School where I went, and we started a band, and I'm surprised that both him and I are still alive.
I'm not. Awesome dude.
Yeah, he's such a great person, such a crazy ass drummer, unlike no other drummers. I mean, he's a jazz drummer, one of the few that I've really played with, but he would like do this crazy shit where he'd like freak out and leave during a song,
Yeah.
and then he'd come back, like punch his drums a couple times, and then finish the song. It was like the craziest shit.
Dope.
Yeah.
I do want to apologize in advance for the video quality of this episode and the technical difficulties that we did face before this podcast, and it almost did not happen. But thankfully, with Jose's patience and his calmness, we kind of got it together.
Yeah. It was weird. We just found out Paul Rubens died, too. That was, like, really...
just minutes before.
Such a fucking sad thing. So, anyhow, I'm psyched that he was on this. We did a brief Cult and Culture volume, which was before the podcast with him. That was pretty awesome, too. But this is, like, the full one where we dove into conversation. I really wasn't sure where it was going to go, and where it went is very surprising because it's really not specific to music, but also can be applied to probably every single musician and artist that we know.
Yeah. And we got a special guest that came in towards the end.
Yeah. Oh, man. What did Jose call him? High-tech Aztec. Yeah, the special guest is great, too. Also awesome friend and family. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool to have like just someone drop by that makes sense. It was awesome to have everybody on board.
Yeah, if anybody was gonna stop by at that episode, it was gonna be him.
Yeah, the high-tech Aztec.
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll just cut out here and like dive into this podcast and check out Jose's work. I mean, obviously Struggle and Swing Kids, but Botter Brains, Bread and Circuits, Yaphet Kotto. He was in a bunch of crazy, awesome bands, and he is doing a lot of great social work. So yeah, if you end up seeing him anywhere, tell him what's up, give him a hug. He's an awesome human being. Thank you very much. Enjoy.
Later.
So my name is Jose Palafox. I'm a drummer, I'm an educator, and also work in mental health. I live in Oakland, California. I'm gonna be fucking 50 years old in December. Yeah.
You want to talk about the awesome bands that you've been in?
Oh,
Just list them off.
well, I've done a few different bands. Mission Bay High School is the first one I should know, with Mr. Vanoli, who we used to crank call while we were in high school all the fucking time, and I feel really bad about it.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Vanoli.
Struggle, Swing Kids, Bread and Circuits, played a bit in Yaphet Kodo, Butterbrains, played sometimes in Tit Wrench, Crash Worship, Both Hands Broken, probably a few other ones I can't remember.
You did that short chunk of touring with Some Girls, which is pretty rad.
That's right.
Yeah.
I did do that. Yeah.
So we've been friends for a long time. We met at the swap meet.
Yeah.
Your uncle hired me to sell bootlegs.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Bootleg tapes?
Tapes, and T-shirts. They had good shit. And then we like officially met at that PIL concert, and hung out, and then we were inseparable from then.
With Jesse.
Yep, Jesse
who
Roach.
passed away.
Yes,
Rest in
R.I.P.
peace.
Fuck, what was I gonna say? So I think the stars were aligned, and we were destined to be brothers somehow. It's been fucking crazy. So we have so much shit that we could talk about, but we're gonna narrow this down to hopefully one massive topic.
Okay.
But I want to start off by saying there was this time where I think it was before Struggle, and we were both going to Mission Bay High School, I think, or maybe not. Anyhow, we went to see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3, and you were on acid. And I think I was 14, and so you were maybe 15. And you were on acid, and my mom got drunk and couldn't pick us up. And so we were trying to get home, and the cops picked us up. And they fucked with us. First of all, they were like, "Are you guys skinheads?" And I was like, "Okay, there's a few things here." Jose has this giant mohawk, and I had a Dead Kennedys Nazi Punks Fuck Off t-shirt. And then like, "Okay, you're not skinheads, are you fags?" And I was like, "Oh my god, that's the obvious thing for a cop to say." Yeah. I was like, "Okay, can you just give us a ride home?" And they were not cooperating, and they wouldn't give us a fucking ride home. And I was like, "We're two minors. It's midnight." And they wouldn't give us a ride home, and you're on acid. But so we ended up walking from the sports arena to Claremont. It took us a long time.
Damn.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
It took,
obviously because I was on acid.
Fucking forever. I know, it's funny to go see Texas Chainsaw Massacre on 3. I had not done acid yet, so I was like, "Are you sure you should do that?" If I had done acid, I'd probably been like, "Dude, let's go see a normal movie because this is not a fucking good idea."
Wow.
But with all that being said, like, I think that it's no wonder why we and I say this in like a loving term, but like, we're fucked up, and like, we've been fucked up, and and all the things that that this world is dealt us, and I'm not pitying us, I'm just saying like us in the, like, specifically the punk community, we all have these things where it's like, this happened and this happened, this happened. No wonder we're into weird shit. No wonder we are struggling.
Mentally. I mean, I think that's the beautiful thing about this kind of platform, that it allows people to not be victims, but to be survivors, and more importantly, to be resilient, to bounce back from shit that's hard, And I think that for some of us, that's our only way to survive, is to be part of something that's bigger than us. And I can speak for myself. Punk rock has definitely saved my life, because it was something that was bigger than me, and it allowed me to put my body where my mind told me to, and to actually embody it in every fiber of my body. And I still live the same way. And to me, it's not just the music, but it's the practice of how we relate with one another. And for me, that was really important. I was born in Tijuana. I grew up in San Diego. So even being part of the scene here, you're my brother, I love you, we connected, but there was still something that I was not part of. I wasn't part of this country. I didn't look like most of the kids that went to shows. So I still felt like an outsider, even though I was part of this subculture. And it's not been until recently that we've been able to have more of an awareness that even with its subcultures, there's even more subcultures within. And I think that I'm just grateful that I was able to be part of this scene where people can allow that diversity, that would be aware to stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do
you think maybe in San Diego there was a it's never enough because punk and hardcore
Right.
was always centered on white men, but there was like a lot of, there was a lot of Latinx kids that were
Yeah,
part of
for
all
sure.
the bands and stuff. I mean, obviously because of the regional
Right.
location. So,
Right.
I mean, there's that, but it was never enough, and it was never recognized or addressed
Right.
in a serious manner. I mean, there was the time when
Right.
Unbroken played to all
Right.
those straight edge kids, and you introduced them in Spanish, and I think the entire audience had no idea what you were saying. I
Right.
think Rob Moran was the only one that was
Right.
like, "Oh, you're calling everybody white devils," and like I just remember you and Rob laughing, and everyone else being like, "What's
Right.
happening?"
Yeah. I think It and last night I forget his fucking name because I've known him, seen him at shows for decades. This black dude, he was there last night, and I was like, I just wanted to let you know, bro, it was fucking amazing to see you at that show, the Unbroken show that was last night at the Che Cafe. And it was just good to see you amongst all the other kids in there, and just you being in there and just taking up space the way that, for example, Chicks Up Front in DC took up space amongst the white straight edge kids.
Yeah.
It was just great to see that body, that person having fun, enjoying himself, and being part of that, I saw that. I identified with that, and I just let him know that I really appreciated him.
Yeah.
Still being here.
Sure. So, what were you gonna say?
No, I said that's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a huge shift here, though, but like, and I think Dave Claiborne mentioned it about all of the people that have passed in the last like
Right?
few years. It's
Yeah.
pretty insane. And recently Rick Froberg passing was pretty it's very substantial. But
Yeah.
and he passed for other reasons. But a lot of people in our lives have taken their lives due to mental illness. I think that's something to be I don't know, to recognize and to mention. I think it's
Right.
wild because it was weird seeing like people crying and shit, because I mean, Unbroken's missing Eric Allen, but there's all these other people that passed away, and it was weird because it was like every time Unbroken played, for me it was sort of like a memorial to Eric
Right.
or to other people, and it was really nice that for instance Dave would include Gabe Serbian, and
Right.
and it made sense, and it was just fucking crazy. I feel for those people that left us, and I feel for their family.
I was just talking to Luke about that when we were setting up for the shit. Last night at the show, I hadn't talked to some people in decades, and they were like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I introduced my wife, living in Oakland now. We have a beautiful house. I love the field that I'm in now. I was in academia. I used to teach Latinx studies, sociology. I was at amazing places where I was teaching at, but I went a different career, and I went into behavioral mental health, which is where I'm at now. And so as I was telling people started kind of telling me their shit with their family, with their partners, and it just, to me, it was beautiful, but it shows that we still have a long way to go in terms of destigmatizing issues around addiction and mental illness, even within our communities, right? There were bands like the Cramps, like, remember that video that they had in that fucking
Yeah.
like, that was amazing
Yeah.
on so many levels.
The
But-
Psych Ward
right,
show, yeah.
to like connect, identify with that. But I think there's still a lot of stigma. So when people bring it up and it's so obvious, that it just kind of forces us to address those issues that even within our community, I think it's still taboo. I still think we don't talk about it as much. We don't address it as much.
I mean, I think maybe the fact that we are into such, it's pretty strange stuff on a mainstream level.
Yeah.
Maybe we're attracted to it because
Right.
it feels a good reference point is that Cramps video, because, and I think even Lux has been quoted saying like these are people that really did enjoy it,
Right.
and whatever it is, their brain is wired to like really be
Right.
driven towards
Right,
that.
right.
Um,
Yeah, they're performing their disability, if you will.
the audience.
Yeah.
But felt comfortable, I think.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were respected
Right.
enough to have like this cool ass band. They were
Yeah.
fucking cool.
Yeah.
Come there and do it for them. That's
Right.
something
Yeah,
that says
yeah,
something.
yeah.
But so I think about that, like I wonder, you know, with Eric and also with Gabe, it's like, man, I wish they would have just said something. Everybody loves them, you know, but it's something that we can't, I don't think we can like necessarily change the trajectory of what their life.
I think here's the deal, and I haven't really talked about it much publicly, so I feel okay talking about it with you guys, and hopefully somebody can learn something from this. But I was straight edge for a long time. I was straight, and for a while I became really depressed. I became really anxious, and so I started self-medicating with stimulants and alcohol. And I'll be honest, like, alcohol saved my life. It prevented me from blowing out my fucking brains out when I was sad. After a while, alcohol stopped working, and it actually started making things worse. So I had to figure out a way to address that shit without something that was actually not helping. It was actually making it worse. So that's when I got into recovery, and I did it the way it worked for me, which is through traditional abstinence-based, 12-step model, which was weird because it's all God-centric, and it's everything against that I believed in terms of authority, in terms of religion, in terms of all that shit. But I remember one of my guys that I used to work with early in AA, he said, AA works for people who believe in God, for people who don't believe in God. It just doesn't work for people who think they are God. And here I am quoting like Karl Marx, like, religion is the opium of the masses, yet fucking opium was my religion, and I thought I was free. And so I had to really come to terms that, like, I am not free. I am a fucking slave. And if you really look at the word addiction in Latin, in terms of the etymology of the word addiction, it means to be bound to be a slave. So I was almost a slave to the stimulants and to the alcohol. And so in order for me to get some freedom from all of that, I had to be aware that I was a slave. I had to surrender and say, hey, bro, I need fucking help. I can't do this on my own. And for me, it wasn't God. It was GOD, group of drunks, other people who were like me, who like called me, took me to a meeting, like hung out with me. And so that allowed for me to grow as a person and address the shit that led me to the alcohol. The alcohol was not the problem. That was the solution to the problem.
Sure.
So I had to address the shit that led me to that. So that I got on some medication, started exercising, started, doing the shit that we need to do to be healthy, getting a good night's sleep, eat healthy, exercise, be social. And I started getting better, and I'm coming up on 13 years being clean and sober. And that's all because of a sort of DIY community that people support each other that are anonymous, and that it's not about, we just support each other in a mutual aid kind of way. And there's a lot of similarities between the punk community and the recovery community. I'm actually writing on that book. I still want to do for 31G. Cool. But I really see a lot, and in fact, Bill W., one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, would always say that Alcoholics Anonymous is an anarchist organization. We have no fucking leaders. No one runs this shit. It's run by people who believe that you don't have to fuck people over to survive, right? And I really dug it. And so I've just been really blessed to, one, be better myself, and then be in a field where hopefully I get to be useful to someone else. I get to be of service. Every day I wake up and I'm so grateful that I get to do that.
Do you think, maybe this might sound trivial, but do you think you have already been a service to people? Because for me, I'm not obviously in the same field that you are academically or career-wise, but like I'll go on tour and people will say, Swing Kids saved my life. And that's a crazy thing, like, to think about being a successful band. I mean, Swing Kids weren't monetarily successful, but the fact that I can go on tour and have not just one, but like many people say, your band saved my life.
Yeah.
We didn't even know we were doing that.
Right. And I think for some of them, they could probably relate with the lyrics, but I think they can also relate with Eric.
Also, just the sheer energy of the music, I mean, it has a vibe, I think. Because lyrics, what was it? Like Cliff, I think, in Struggle said that the only effective form of communication is music, and it doesn't have to be specific to lyrics or language. It's just an energy, and it comes to the punk and community world.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Hardcore community.
I'm just really glad that I mean, it's sad that Eric's not here.
Yeah,
it's a bummer. It's a big fucking bummer. Mother Jones used to have a quote. She said, remember the dead, honor the dead, and fight like hell for the living. And a lot of folks in ACT UP used to use that when they carry their
The coffins.
professions,
Oh.
right? They did the procession, sorry.
Oh, yeah, yes.
And they had that saying of like, these people are dead, but we're still alive and we're fighting like hell for the living. And I think Eric, even though he's not here, his message, his presence, his music, I think is encouraging others to move forward. It's really interesting because I also went through a very dark period where I almost was engaged in, suicidal ideation. And I actually cut myself, and I wasn't trying to kill myself. Someone asked me, like, were you trying to kill yourself? I was like, no, dude. Like, I was actually trying to live. And he was like, what the fuck? Yeah, I was cutting so I can live because I didn't know any other way to deal with my emotional pain. And that's the same thing when people abuse alcohol or drugs, I feel, when they abuse it. Not when people recreationally use it and they don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that. But when it becomes a problem in their lives, they're doing something that's repeatedly and compulsively despite negative consequences. That's the sort of definition of addiction. And when someone is cutting, they're not trying to kill themselves. They're just trying to live, but they don't know how to necessarily deal with the emotional shit.
That I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
So you trying to live like kind of like maybe by shocking yourself, like I'm fucking with the notion of death, kind of like I'm making myself aware that I'm alive.
I don't want to feel. When I drank and fucking smoked meth and did all kinds of crazy shit, I did not want to feel. I was escaping from self.
Yeah.
Self is the problem. So cutting is a way to not feel by feeling that visceral.
Like physical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think many of us do that.
Sure.
It's just not in so many crazy ways. But when we engage in fucking over shopping or fucking, whatever, there's so many addictions, but we focus on these ones because those are the ones that we fucking. I mean, we have like 2 million people in prison, right? A good 65 to 70% of those are in there for non-violent drug offenses.
Oh, yeah.
People need fucking help. They need treatment.
Sure.
They don't need fucking prison.
Yeah.
But so much of that approach is not from a health perspective. It's from a criminal justice perspective. So we tend to vilify those with mental illness. So a lot of people don't understand when someone's engaging in that like self-mutilating behavior, we just want to like put them in a psych ward or give them some pills instead of really addressing like they're actually reflecting the craziness of the society they live in.
And also, but them just getting locked up is also part of the whole prison industrial complex.
Right.
So, and also considering race, that's another huge topic too. So
yeah, I've been locked up myself in 72-hour holds. Shit was not fun. Shit was not fun.
Well, I mean, you were famously locked up on the cover of the Struggle Undertow.
I know, we were talking
which-
about that because Undertow played yesterday,
Yeah.
and I guess some people were coming up to Pettibone, and they're like, that's a cool cover, and he was like telling them like, no, dude, like that's Jose, that's the guy from that band. He actually got fucked up by the LAPD, and they were like, oh wow, they thought like they just grabbed it from, I don't know, somewhere. Like,
I mean, it was before the internet, so we couldn't like
Right,
brag about
right?
it. I always bragged about it. I was like,
Yeah.
no one's drummer gets on the cover getting
Right.
arrested by the LAPD.
yeah, and that was in the LA Times, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, cover. The fucking cover. It was also the cover of the Revolutionary Worker, but
Right, I
LA
remember
Times
that.
is a little bit more mainstream. But I wonder about like the stuff you're talking about, like the sort of negative reaction to life. Maybe ties into punk and like this nihilistic kind of old school punk rock thing, like the sort of Sid Vicious-ishness of punk, which I think is not necessarily a modern. It's not it's not relevant in modern punk. Like I think punk is at least trying to evolve into something that doesn't really need that.
I mean, say more about it because I have some thoughts, but
What always comes up is G.G. Allen, but we can not discuss that necessarily. But I want to say like more like when people like, okay, I grew up, I was obsessed with the Sex Pistols, and I always thought Sid Vicious was cool. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I was like, oh, actually, there's all these other things associated with the Sex Pistols that are cooler, like the lyrics and the art and stuff. It wasn't really about this like spiky-haired leather jacket punk rock heroin addict with a swastika T-shirt.
Right.
I get the shocking, let's upset your parents kind of aspect, or even the more severe stuff like being a drug addict and essentially, you know, maybe killing your girlfriend and whatever. Yeah. I don't know.
Wow.
But,
Okay.
You know what I'm saying though? Like,
Yeah.
like he was like this weird poster boy for punk rock, which to me, I look at like, and I don't, this is no disrespect to the people that I do think is a poster boy, but like someone like Ian MacKaye is someone that you should more as a younger person look up to. And it was when we went to see Pitchfork open for Fugazi. I that night I realized like, oh my God, there's so much more depth to punk. Not even like punk rock, but punk. And I was like, oh, there's this like, this sort of like moral code, this ethical code.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that sometimes commercialism has a way of grabbing things and then selling it back to the kids, and people tend to associate what it means by what they see as being presented as what is punk. And that's always been like my beef with some of the parts of punk rock, which is to me it's not really just so much how you look or the aesthetics of it or the presentation, but it's how one lives their lives and how they relate to not just to other people but to the planet. I mean, fuck, you know, we're seriously fucked right now.
Yeah.
Planetary wise, you know. So to me, I've seen a lot more people that engage in what I would call punk's praxis or punk's DIY ethics that have nothing to do with punk.
Yeah.
But they embody it in the way they relate to other beings. And to me, that's much more important than someone who might present with certain ways, aesthetics or nihilism. I never really got that. I don't know.
But what do you mean you didn't get it?
I mean, I got it, but it wasn't like... I mean, I had a Dead Kennedys leather jacket. I had a mohawk and all that. But to me, after a while, that went away because it doesn't really matter to me if I'm being an asshole and I'm being in a certain way, but I'm presenting myself as something that I'm not. And to me, I think that's what didn't allow for me to come out and talk about the shit that I was dealing with. Because, like, even in Struggle, for example, we had certain lyrics, we had certain music, we presented as a certain political band, but the individuals, I will speak for myself, I was not healthy. And I think things aren't black and white. I think things are like a little mixed sometimes, and I feel that I try to stay away from fundamentalisms from the right or from the left. And I think we get a lot of fundamentalisms sometimes, even in DIY subcultures, when things aren't that black and white. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does, because, well, I also feel like maybe, and that's another thing too, is like, we kind of talked about this earlier, but like, I think everyone, and I'm not trying to diminish you or Struggle or anybody in but like, I think everyone has not just black and white. We all have that gray area where you're like, oh, this is pretty wild. You know, it's weird too. Like, I mean, I don't want to get too much into punk and hardcore, but like when we would associate with certain bands, I would wonder why we are connecting to these other people. And in retrospect, I sometimes it made sense. Sometimes it was the wrong person. But there was always like one person in a band that was, I don't know, just sort of like on the level that had an extra element of depth to them that we could fully connect with.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely felt that. Yeah, it's interesting to think about it now. I don't want to say what bands.
Yeah, I don't. I was trying to avoid that.
No, you have to now.
But I mean, even like, again, we could talk about Unbroken playing last night. Like, that was another thing too, where it's like it was very special to people, but also to me, and to like, I'm so close with all of them, very close with Rob Moran, obviously, and just we've gone through more than I've gone through with the rest of Unbroken, but like just hearing Dave speak about stuff and just the way, just to talk to him like off, not on stage, like just in general, like, or Todd or Steve, like just to talk to them and like hear about just their humanity, and I don't know, it's just fun. It's weird. It's weird because I remember growing up seeing them play in backyards covering God Save the Queen and shit, and I'm like, oh, this is so weird.
Right.
But they I guess, steered clear of those sort of like nihilistic punk rock things.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, I just wonder about what we've accomplished and why, and also like what we've been up against.
Yeah,
it's interesting to think about.
Well, here's the thing, JP. Like I've thought about this because, I think I'm gonna be 50. I think that if I was to, for whatever fucking reason, die tomorrow, and I was to be so lucky that someone would write an obituary about me, I think more than likely, and I hope that people would remember what I did, not what I said. Because I think that so much of punk is about what you are vocalizing, and unfortunately so much is about what you're against, not what you're for, which is a lot more challenging to discuss. Anyone could be against fucking anything, but what are you actually for? That takes thinking, critical thinking, reflection, introspection. It takes a lot of stuff. But I hope people remember what I did, and what I did is not so much public in terms of how I work with other people. I don't want people to know what I'm doing in terms of when I'm helping other people on the DL, because it's not about that. It's about how I work in my community with the people that I know, the people that I help. And because in order for me to keep my sobriety, I have to help someone else. A helps B, A gets better. And so I don't necessarily need to advertise what I'm fucking doing. But those people that know me and know what I do will know. And so I hope that speaks for actions speak louder, I feel. And I think sometimes in punk we get too worked up about what we say versus what we actually fucking do in our lives, not just in the music.
Yeah. And I agree, but also maybe more so now too, like if you've accomplished all this stuff and at some point like fucked up, the fuck up is the thing that people just recognize.
And it's unfortunate because I really do believe in redemption. I do believe that people are not their worst mistakes. People are not their worst mistakes. People can change. People can
there's also a thing, it is a mistake.
But unfortunately we vilify people, and that's because we put them on a pedestal. But people are gonna fuck up. And I think there's a big difference between shame and guilt. Shame says, I am fucked up. Guilt says, I fucked up. I can work with fucked up because I have fucked up. The thing is, you make amends. You change your behavior. You do something differently, and you move forward. Shame says, I am fucked up. I'm just fucked up. Everything's fucked up. What's the point of changing? And I think too much of the sort of call-out culture, for example, tends to focus too much on making someone this thing that they did versus you've done that. How can we support you to grow and change?
I wonder if like those two versions of being fucked up and fucking up are kind of equivalent to like, let's say Sid Vicious and Ian MacKaye.
Yeah.
Because I do wonder like, and not to talk about Sid Vicious because I think he's not that interesting, but like whatever got him to where he was, like I'm sure he had issues, like most of us do, but those are the things that projected into that. And,
right.
And maybe that's the core root of punk. We needed help,
Yeah.
And
right. I mean, it was obvious to me last night. As I was telling Luke, like it just felt cool to be able to say, hey, I work in mental health now. I work especially with folks who are challenged with addiction. And someone's like, oh, my brother's fucking up right now. I hope he shows up to the show. I want you to talk to him. Just on and on and on. And it's just, especially in our community of punk, most of us have had some kind of trauma, some kind of adversity while we were growing up. And this is the thing that helped us, at least for me, survive and move forward. But some of us were not lucky enough, and we took our own lives, or we fucking moved to a really dark road, a really dark path. And some of us are still there and barely making it.
I wonder where empathy fits into the equation. Because I do think that maybe a lot of people are unempathetic to others that are...
Why do you think that is, though?
Selfishness, I think.
I mean...
That's what I was wondering how do you react
Yeah.
To that, how did you react last night to somebody just coming up to you and saying, "Hey, my brother's fucking up," like, almost like,
right,
hear him out, or help him.
Yeah, maybe that was maybe that was desperation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on his end. But if somebody was like to me, it would just have to be on a case by case basis,
right?
I would think,
right.
But you seem to have a fucking hell of a lot more patience than I do.
I have to have 50. Well, I don't have to, but my work requires 50-minute sessions with clients. Mm-hmm. So my approach to counseling.
That's basically
therapy,
what this is.
Yeah, it's basically like, here's the thing. It's not that people don't want change. It's that they resist being changed. Mm-hmm. The more you push someone, the more they're gonna say fuck you and resist. So you have to ask questions in a way where they can see. So you point out their behavior. Their stated goal is this. I want to do this, right? I want to not fucking smoke crack, shoot fentanyl. I don't want to do any of that shit. Okay, what's your behavior doing? And so our job as counselors is just to point out the discrepancy, the ambivalence between what they're actually saying and what they're actually doing. And for them to see, this is what they say they want, but this is what they're actually doing. So how can we support you in you making the decision to do it? Mm-hmm. The more I try to push them, the more they're going to say, fuck you.
Yeah.
So my job is just to ask questions, to listen, to offer some support, both from lived experience, but also from my clinical.
To be empathetic.
Well, that's the first thing. That's before anything.
But a lot of people miss that fucking first point.
So there's two kind of clients that I've worked with that in drug treatment that like fucking see the fakeness from a mile away. Mm-hmm. So I had to really learn. And that's high school kids, middle school kids who I work with, and then people who've done ex-lifers, people who've done serious prison time. They fucking smell that shit from a mile away. So the first thing I had to do is just establish rapport. I'm not trying to fucking do anything. I'm just trying to listen, just trying to connect. Because if you can't connect, you can't do anything.
Sure.
And I feel when bands are able to do that, then you can fucking do whatever you want.
Okay, so but not
you have to connect with them.
But what about like this might be trivial in the broader spectrum of things, but like what about like, and this is no disrespect to straight edge, but like a lot of straight edge bands are unempathetic. Like a good example would be I fucking don't even know like the dumb straight edge bands. Like I shouldn't say dumb, but like the ones that are militant.
Right. So Maya Angelou said something that was very interesting a long time ago, or at least it's been attributed to her. She said, people will forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I really try to embody that in my life.
That's interesting.
People don't fucking care or are going to remember your speech, but they'll fucking remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can connect with people on an emotional level, because there's a connection between memory and emotion, you're more than likely going to make an impact. So that person that asked me that shit yesterday, I was like, dude, I was in the same fucking place. I almost fucking died. This is what I did. And this is what really helped. When this person helped me this way, it fucking helped a lot. You know? They're going to remember that than some fucking speech about some clinical medication or whatever the thing. Those are important. I know about that. I know about different cognitive behavioral therapies. I know about different treatment modalities. But they're more than likely going to remember an emotional connection. And I think that too many of these certain bands, they have an important message. But as you know, it's not just about content, but it's about form. Mm-hmm. Too many people focus on the content without remembering the form. The form is how you engage, how you relate, how you connect. So you could be the shittiest fucking aesthetically wise, but you connect with someone on an emotional level. I'm like, I fucking dig that.
I wonder, like, because I do think about, like, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to point this at me, but this happened a lot recently where now that there's this sort of awareness of people in the trans community, I've had a lot of people come up and say that the Locust made them feel comfortable in the late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, for whatever reasons, made us feel comfortable. And I don't understand what that is that brought in that comfort.
What do you
on
think
accident.
That's about?
Everything.
I think
the fact that we were weird as fuck.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think the aesthetics.
It was an accident. But all the morals were set up. All the ethics were set up from everything.
Yeah, I love it.
You want to bring Carlos in?
Carlitos! ¿Qué pasó, hermano? ¿Cómo estamos, loco? Look at you and your fucking guavallera over here. What's
You're going to have
up,
to be in part of this podcast.
I know, bro. Fucking B-side.
Hey, man.
Oh, my God.
Good to see you, dude.
Dude, look at you and all your fucking high-tech Aztec shit.
Have a seat.
Have a seat, bro. We're just finishing up the interview here.
Nice.
So I'm gonna throw you into this real quick. We did this. The last Locust shows were with Sonido de la Frontera, and it was really interesting. It was really interesting because I mean this with all my heart. Like Sonido is a fucking punk band. Like you guys are, you know what I'm saying? Like it, and we played these. It was like Shit Coffins, Sonido de la Frontera, the Locust. Like that's beautiful, weird, or Therapy. Sonido de la Frontera and the Locust, and people like reacted to it in the way they should. It was beautiful. It was awesome. It was so cool. It redefined punk and made people realize that like punk isn't Sid Vicious. It's something else.
I think it speaks to the region, right? We're in the fucking frontera, and the frontera is not just a physical demarcation, but it's at every fucking city, it's at every school, it's at every fucking community where people are being divided by these fucking fake fronteras. And I think when you demarcate that with music, you're breaking down that shit. That's what I really loved about that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Sure. I've been seeing those T-shirts. Cumbia is a new punk.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I want one of those.
Yeah. It's true though, but it also is like cultural appropriation, right? Oh, it's a trip. Def Club just went on tour with these bands. No way. I think we were probably the weirdo bunch. But you have like the bumper music when you're done.
Right.
They usually put on some garbage hardcore metal,
right.
And we were like, no. Always put on Sonido every night after we're done. And it was really because the contrast is beautiful. Just brutal, weird shit, and then cumbia, and people are like, oh my gosh, like they feel free, and like you just look out and you see people dancing. Usually it's people of color dancing, and the white people are like, what the fuck?
Here's what I love that documentary, and I know this might fucking get some people pissed off, but I really fucking didn't like that documentary on San Diego punk did not include TJ, did not include a lot of the shit.
It's Gonna Blow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll defend Bill a little bit, the director, because how do you make a document? You can't talk about everything in an hour. Not that excluding our proximity to Mexico is a justifiable thing, but it missed out on Gravity Records. It missed out on all kinds of stuff.
But you're making a documentary about San Diego punk. You could at least set a sentence or two about the ways in which Tijuana, the people from Tijuana, the people that are Mexican American, Chicano, Latinx, embody the scene. Yeah. I mean, I just think it was a big missed opportunity.
Sure.
And maybe that's a movie documentary for us to make, for other people to make. But it's just, I just feel so much of that history is left out all the time. We have fucking Centro, we have Chicano Park, we have so much shit, that's punk. It just doesn't work that way in terms of what people identify as punk. Again, going back to the stuff I was saying about punk praxis, is not always the music, but it's the way that one lives their lives.
It's up here.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier about like punk isn't. I always say there's a difference between punk and punk rock.
Okay.
Punk rock is the thing that you're just like, yeah, that's rancid or whatever. But like punk, taking away the musical aspect, it can be anything.
Right.
It's this ethical and moral code that we, I don't know, somehow are embracing.
Yeah.
Maybe not embracing. I don't know. Yeah.
What's B-side doing these days?
We leave tomorrow on a North Pacific kind of run, Portland or Seattle, and then cross over to all the hippie mountains.
Yeah, they're gonna let you through.
Festivals. They're gonna let us through.
Fuck, you guys got all your green cards and shit. Okay, that's what's up.
Once we're past like the LA checkpoint thing.
Those motherfuckers are up on the mountain, dude. They're like looking and shit. Yeah. Hey, but we didn't cross the border. The border crossed us, motherfuckers.
Yeah. I'm always scared. I mean, even when I was younger and I would come from Phoenix, they always thought I was Mexican. I was like, you motherfuckers. They're like, yeah, it was weird. Because I was always out in the sun and I guess tan. But like, I was like, why am I... They always thought my parents had this Mexican kid in the car.
Right.
I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And it was weird. And so now it's like in me. I'm like, oh my God, we're going to get stopped.
Yeah. It's because you have a espalda mojada.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
We can't say it. people get offended.
All right, I'll have to go.
I also believe in humor. I think that too many of us who have been
I
political
like
get
Beaner. I like
right.
Beaner.
That's a little bit better because I don't know, bro. Like that's the thing is like as a white person, you can't fucking tell me how I'm gonna make sense of racist structures in our society. Like for me, comedy is the way to fucking make sense of it sometimes.
Totally.
And I laugh. And it's funny to me, so fuck you for being politically correct and telling me I can't make jokes like, oh, they're going to go in the back of the trunk because they're Mexican, shit like that. Yeah. And then shit like that, and I'm just like, that's just how I live, bro. Like, that's the reality that I live.
But it does make white people that
uncomfortable.
Are,
they should fucking feel uncomfortable.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. They should. I'm a fan of it. I also think when I'm if you meet some fuckhead Nazi, or neo-Nazi, but you being like you're a fuckhead neo-Nazi, they're gonna be like, yeah. But instead, if you can combat them with some sort of, I don't know, I always talk about that. This time I engaged with the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan on Facebook. And
on
it was crazy.
Facebook?
Yeah, and everyone was trashing him, and I'm like, fuck, this is bad. He's going to shoot me when I go to Tennessee next or whatever. I don't want to like talk some shit to this guy. And on the side, we ended up talking about Dave Chappelle, and he brought up how he thinks Dave Chappelle is the best comedian ever, and he cited that skit where he was the blind Klansman.
Right.
And it is the fucking funniest thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's crazy. And not that I felt like I was relating to this Ku Klux Klan Grand Dragon, like the purple one.
Right.
I was just like,
the purple one.
yeah, it's.
Hey, I love me some fucking Tennessee, Texas Klansmen. Because you know where the fuck those motherfuckers are. These California racist motherfuckers, they'll like, oh, I love you, blah, and then motherfuckers stab you in the back.
The Roger Hedgecocks.
Yeah,
the ones
so
that are like,
I want to know exactly where you stand. Good, I love you. I know you're there.
Yeah.
But these fake-ass California racists that are liberal and they'll fucking call the cops on you, like, that's the shit that I'm not for.
Texas gun rack is intimidating.
Right, although that is
guns are always intimidating.
Right, that's why I always carry my 40 caliber.
But I did feel like making having a humorous conversation. Having a humorous conversation with this guy was, I don't know if it was effective, but it was definitely on the route of being effective instead of me just being like, you fucking piece of shit Klansman, which I felt that way, but I just need to say it. He already knew it. So anyhow.
Well, I don't know how much other shit you want to cover, but
everything.
I really do feel like I really appreciate you asking questions around mental health.
Yeah.
Because, that's where I work in now. I work in treatment, mental health. I work with people who are challenged with addiction, and I think music is a way to reach people. I think, like we were saying, like I have a class that I do. I have my drum set in my therapy room, and sometimes instead of sitting in a formal, therapist setting, we just go fucking hit the drums.
That's sick.
We'll do different ways of reaching the person, because in the end, what we're doing is we're running from self, right? That's for me. When I was drinking and fucking using drugs and shit, I was running from self, and now that I am in self and get to love myself and work on myself and have a beautiful wife and have a beautiful home, and like I love that I'm able to do this because I accept myself. And I think so much of the people in our community that leave us in really sad ways is that we're trying to run from self.
It's interesting. I don't even know what I was going to say. That you just threw me for a loop on that one.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Well, I think a lot of it, and the other thing too has been like my mindfulness practice. I really do a lot of that. I try to, be aware, be more mindful.
Yeah.
Again, another thing that fucking has been reappropriated by white people and their fucking hippiness. But this shit, the Buddha was saying this shit 2,000 years ago, right? And now people want to make this whole thing about certain cognitive behavioral therapies. But this shit was like being said thousands of years ago and was being practiced then.
What about like people? I mean, I do wonder about like people that have addictive personalities that don't, or that they either don't get into drugs and alcohol or did and changed to something else, because music can. I know people that are fully fucking addicted to like their craft and creating music. Yeah. In an addictive way, but it's not destructive or self-destructive necessarily.
Are you talking about Luke?
I was thinking that.
I actually wasn't, but fucking A, man. There's one of them. I was thinking about two other people, and I'm not going to name them.
Carlos, too. You're I get so addicted to working that like if I'm not here for
Yeah.
2 days, I'm angry.
Right.
Like, I'll have people be
Yeah.
like, dude, go to the studio.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't use addiction. Again, the definition of addiction is repetitive compulsive use of a substance or performance of a behavior that occurs despite negative consequences. And the important part there is having negative consequences.
Yeah.
So if you're not having negative consequences, maybe you're OCD, maybe you're something else,
Yeah.
but I think
what about
addiction.
when I'm a jerk to somebody? You know,
Well, you're just being a
like
fucking
somebody
jerk.
Knows, yeah.
You know?
But in the way it's where like
He's not
it's
getting
like,
it.
I'm
You
not
don't
getting
understand.
my music fix.
Right.
My
When
studio
we
fix,
say
so-
addiction, there's an actual changing in terms of structure and function of brain. Like there's actually something that's been taking place that is beyond someone who, for example, engages in binge drinking. Doesn't mean that they're an addict. It's just they engage in problematic drinking. Addiction is an actual diagnosable thing that you can actually take an assessment and say, yeah, we diagnose you with alcohol use disorder. Here's some treatments for you, so forth. For being an asshole, I don't know if there's treatment for being an asshole.
Yeah, I don't think
Right.
so.
There are, but
There's a couple ways. I've been an asshole, and I
Same
got
here,
treatment
bro.
by getting my ass kicked. And
same fucking here.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we have to drive up to Oakland, 8 hours. I might be an asshole on the way up, you know, driving in a fucking car.
You're a loving asshole, though. Yeah. We've gone through some stuff where I'm like, I love that guy.
I love it, man. I'm so grateful that I was able to come down to San Diego and see all my friends, see you guys, do this fucking interview. Life is short, man. As we could see, there's so many people that are dying these days. Fucking Pee-wee, rest in peace.
Dude, that's terrible.
But I think it's important to appreciate what we have. This is the thing I want to end on, because I work with ex-lifers for a long time. These are people who did serious fucking time. The last guy I worked with had done 41 years, 11 of those in the fucking hole. And he said to me, Jose, people don't really appreciate life until it's been taken from them.
Of course.
They don't appreciate things until it's been taken from you, until you've been put in a fucking cage for 41 years. When you get out, you really appreciate life. And so for me, I really remember that. And Asada Shakur said, to be free, you have to be acutely aware of being a slave. And to me, when I was a slave to crack and alcohol and all that shit, literally, that's what led my life. And so in order for me to be free today and be clean and sober, I have to be acutely aware that at any point I could go back to that. So every day that I get to be free and to ride home with my wife and fucking enjoy life, I'm fucking grateful, man.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, man.
I mean, it is that mindful awareness. Like it's such a. It seems like such a cheesy term now because it's overused. But it's like, you know, like the people that get mad at getting cut off in a car. It's like that's just a blip in nothingness. Like just go do whatever. It's fine. Just do whatever. It'll be fine.
Again, I was that person.
I know. No, I know.
No, but yoga actually helped me with a lot of that.
I heard you guys were doing that shit.
It's funny. We go to the show.
Do you guys wear the tight pants? I can't wait to see that.
We do. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
What a hard on,
matching
bro.
ones.
We have these like cute
Planet B yoga pants.
Yeah, we have some outfits that we wear.
Nice.
It is funny though, going to yoga and I'm like, I'll forget that I have some shirt on and they'll be like, nice shirt. I'm like, what the fuck am I wearing? Like, and it says like, you know, pro-abortion, anti-Christ, and I'm like, oh, and they're like, no, it's awesome, and I'm like,
right.
Oh, maybe you guys are on the level.
Yeah.
I'm like,
right on. Yeah, bro. Thank you so
yeah,
much
thank
for
you.
letting me do this,
Yeah.
bro. I
I
love
all you guys. This
Love
is
you guys,
fucking
bro.
cool. This is
I love it.
cool.
Luke,
Viva
love you,
San
bro.
Diego.
Get down on I'm gonna hold you, bro. All right. All right.
Oh man.
Is this it?
Yeah, that's it.
Good.
It's hot as fucking.
Cut.
There you have it. Episode 31 of the Cult and Culture Podcast. Thank you so much for chiming in. Let's thank our sponsors as of now, Earthquaker Devices, who we absolutely love. You should check out the podcast a few back that we had Julie and Jamie on. Fender, Heartwork Coffee, you for paying attention, listening, supporting. We also like to thank Andy and Becky for all the ins and outs and making this stuff work. And Ruinous Media for taking us on board, being part of their collective. Check out all of our other podcasts, please.
Colton Culture is proudly sponsored by Earthquaker Devices, Fender, and Heartwork Coffee.
Planet B.